"Sir, this corridor is restricted." Derek Calloway doesn't wait for a response. He has 3 investors behind him, a tour that has been scheduled and rescheduled twice, and no patience for anything that interrupts the rhythm of a presentation he has rehearsed 4 times this week. The old man in the chair looks up. He is sitting in the 3rd chair along the east corridor, the one directly below the window that looks out over the hospital courtyard. A manila folder in his lap. A pair of reading glasses on a chain around his neck, currently resting on his nose, directed at whatever was in the folder before the voice reached him. Old dress shoes, dark brown, polished to a shine that no longer needs polish. The particular shine that comes from a shoe maintained for 30 years by someone who believes a worn thing kept clean is not a diminished thing. His suit is charcoal, pressed, clean, not expensive, not new. He is slight. The specific thinness of a man in his 8th decade who spent 50 years standing in operating rooms. He looks up at Calloway and says nothing. This is a private corridor. It is not a public waiting area. Calloway glances briefly at the 3 people behind him, a small reassurance that he is handling this, then returns his attention to the old man. "Can I ask how you got in here?" The old man closes the manila folder. He removes his glasses and lets them rest on their chain. He says, "Through the door, sir." Calloway's tone shifts the way tones shift when patience wears through to something else underneath. "I don't know if you're confused about where you are, but this is the East Surgical Corridor. It connects to the Morrow Cardiac Wing. Patients and visitors are not permitted without authorization and a visible credential." "I know where it connects," the old man says. "No heat. No irritation. The way you state a fact about a place you have known for 40 years to someone who arrived 3 years ago." Calloway looks at the suit. The worn shoes. The manila folder. The absence of any lanyard, any visitor badge, any of the visible signals that tell you a person belongs in the place where they are sitting. He makes a decision. The investors are watching. "Security," he says into the radio clipped to his jacket lapel. "East Corridor, Level 3. I need someone up here." The old man does not stand. He does not reach for his phone. He sits with the folder in his lap and the glasses on their chain and the dark polished shoes on the tile floor, and he waits. Derek Calloway is 48 years old and has been chief executive of Aldrin Medical Center for 37 months. Before Aldrin, there was a regional hospital network in Ohio. Before that, a healthcare consulting group in Chicago. Before that, an MBA from a school whose name he has not stopped mentioning since 2001. He is good at what he does. That is not in dispute. The revenue figures are up. 3 new department heads hired. The capital campaign for the North Tower is 60% funded. He moves through the hospital the way certain men move through the things they administer, at a pace that requires others to adjust, through spaces that seem to arrange themselves around his arrival, with the specific confidence of a man who has been told often enough that he is the right person for this position that the telling has become interior fact. He knows the department heads by name and by budget. He knows which of them are assets and which are complications. He knows the grant figures, the productivity metrics, the mortality rates as they appear in quarterly reports. He does not know the full history of the institution he runs. He has read the executive summary. He read it in his first week and has not returned to it. The East Corridor is part of the original hospital structure, built in 1987. The walls here are a slightly different shade of white from the newer sections. The specific off-white that paint takes on after 35 years of fluorescent lighting and maintenance cycles that never quite catch up with age. Along the east wall there are framed photographs. Black and white, some of them. Color, later ones. Teams in surgical scrubs. Department openings. A ribbon cutting that someone photographed from slightly too far away so the faces are small against the width of the new wing's entrance. Calloway has walked past these photographs on perhaps 50 occasions. He has not stopped to read the names beneath them. The man in the chair is named Elias Morrow. He is 71 years old. He has a house 20 minutes from the hospital, in a neighborhood that has changed around it without changing the house itself. He grows tomatoes in the backyard every summer. He plays chess in the evenings against a retired radiologist in Vancouver, who beats him half the time and whom he has never met in person. He has been retired for 6 years, and the retirement fits him the way a well-worn jacket fits, completely without display. Before retirement, he was the founding chief of cardiac surgery at Aldrin Medical Center. He held that position for 22 years. He operated on more than 4,000 patients in that time. He trained 31 cardiac surgeons, most of whom are now practicing across the country in institutions that use the protocol he developed. The modified bypass procedure that bears his name in the surgical literature, not his name publicly, not on a poster or in a press release, but in the citation trails of peer-reviewed journals, is still the standard of care in Aldrin's operating rooms and in 11 affiliated hospitals. When the East Surgical Wing was dedicated in 1987, it was named in his honor by the hospital board and the founding donors. The dedication plaque is mounted on the corridor wall 12 feet from the chair where he is currently sitting. The manila folder in his lap contains the latest draft of a paper he is co-authoring with his former resident, now Aldrin's chief of surgery, on long-term outcomes following the modified bypass protocol across a 20-year period. He was reviewing page 14, a table of comparative outcomes, when the voice reached him. He comes to the East Corridor on Thursday afternoons because his son operates on Thursdays, and Elias has always found it useful to be nearby. Not necessary. Useful. There is a difference, and at 71 he has long since stopped pretending otherwise. Today is Thursday. His son, Dr. James Morrow, has been in the 4th floor operating room for 3 hours and 40 minutes. His patient is a 67-year-old man named Robert Prue. Quadruple bypass. The presentation was clean, and the surgery is proceeding without complication. One of the 3 investors currently standing in the East Corridor behind Derek Calloway is Martin Prue. He is Robert Prue's son. He flew in from Boston that morning for the investor tour, believing his father to be resting comfortably and scheduled for surgery the following week. His father's cardiologist had recommended that Martin not be told about the surgery in advance. There was no medical reason for the recommendation. The cardiologist simply knew Martin, and knew that what he would do with the information before surgery was worry, and that worry of the specific quality Martin carried would not help either of them. Martin Prue does not know, as he stands in the East Corridor watching an old man be asked to leave a chair, that his father is on a table 4 floors above him with his chest open. He will find out within the hour. At 2:47 in the afternoon, a security officer named Gerald Sims comes around the corner at the end of the corridor. Gerald has worked at Aldrin for 11 years. He is 53. He knows the shape of this building the way people know things they have been inside of for a decade. Not every room, but the quality of the light in different corridors, the sounds that mean something and the sounds that don't, and the faces of the people who have earned the right to be anywhere within it. He turns the corner, sees the old man in the 3rd chair, and stops walking. Then he looks at Calloway. Then at the old man again. Mr. Calloway. Gerald speaks carefully, the tone of a man who is about to deliver information that he is not certain will be received. This is Doctor. Just escort him out, Calloway says. He doesn't have a badge. Sir, this is Dr. Elias. Gerald. Calloway's voice doesn't rise. It closes. The quiet finality of a man who has learned that if you say the name of the person you're redirecting, and you say it in a particular register, the correction lands without drama. Please escort this gentleman out of the corridor and explain the visitor process at the front desk. Gerald looks at Elias Morrow. Elias Morrow stands. He does not say anything immediately. He picks up the manila folder. He takes his reading glasses off their chain and lets them rest there. He straightens his jacket with the small precise adjustment of a man who has been making that adjustment for 50 years. And then he looks at Gerald Sims with an expression that carries neither anger nor humiliation. Something quieter than both. Something that has been held in place by long practice. It's fine, Gerald, he says. 2 words, in the tone of a man releasing another man from an obligation that wasn't his to carry. Gerald walks beside him in the direction of the elevator. Not behind him, beside him, in the manner of a man who is technically doing what he was told and practically doing something different. Behind them, Calloway turns back to his investors. He adjusts his expression to something efficient and forward-moving. "Sorry about that," he says. "We get confused individuals through the side entrances sometimes. Happens at facilities this size. We're updating the badge verification system in Q2. He smiles the smile of a man who has handled a minor disruption in front of an audience and would like credit for handling it smoothly. "Now, if you'll follow me to the North Tower, I have renderings I'd like to walk you through." Martin Prue follows. Before he turns, he looks once more at the old man being walked toward the elevator. The worn shoes. The folder. The particular way the old man's back is straight without being rigid. The posture of someone who has not conceded anything and is not in the habit of conceding things. Martin says nothing. He follows the group. Elias Morrow rides the elevator to the ground floor. He crosses the lobby. He finds a chair near the windows that face the parking lot, where the afternoon light is coming in low and flat, and he opens the manila folder to page 14. He does not call anyone. He reads. The lobby moves around him. Visitors. Staff. A child pulling at her mother's coat near the information desk. The afternoon rhythm of a large hospital in the middle of a working day. He sits inside all of it with the folder and the glasses and the polished shoes and the patience of someone who has decided that the four walls of his piece are not subject to external renegotiation. 38 minutes later, Dr. Claire Morrow comes through the main doors. She is 31 years old. She is a third-year cardiology resident. She is moving at the particular speed of a resident between obligations, not running, but economizing every step, and she stops when she sees the old man in the chair by the window. She stops completely. She takes in the lobby, the chair, the distance between where he is and where he should be. "Dad," she says. "Why are you down here?" He looks up from the folder. He takes his glasses off their chain. "I was asked to wait here," he says. Claire Morrow goes very still. "Who asked you?" Not a question. The inflection is wrong for a question. "A man named Calloway." She does not move for a moment. She knows the name the way residents know administrator names, from the distance of budget decisions and department memos, from the ledger of choices that affect patient care without ever appearing at a bedside. "He said I didn't have a badge." He's not wrong about that. Elias turns a page. "I don't carry one anymore. You have a permanent access credential on file with the surgical department. Everyone in leadership knows." She stops. She takes a breath. She looks at her father-in-law, the folder, the shoes, the quiet, and she does the calculation that doctors learn to do fast. "He doesn't know who you are." "Apparently not," Elias says. Claire stands with her hands at her sides. "James is still in surgery," she says. "I know. He'll be out in 30 minutes. Maybe less. I know that too." She looks at him. She sits down in the chair beside him. She does not have 30 minutes, and they both know it. "The Prue surgery," she says quietly. "How was the imaging when you reviewed it?" "Clean," Elias says. "James has managed this particular presentation before. He'll be finished before 3:30. She nods. She sits for one more minute, which is more than she has. Then she stands, puts her hand on his shoulder. A single compression, the kind that stands in for everything that words would take too long to carry, and goes back through the inner doors at the pace she came in at. Elias turns to page 15. The investors' tour concludes in the North Tower conference room at 3:17 in the afternoon. It has gone well. Calloway is practiced in this particular room. The revenue projections, the architectural renderings, the capital timeline laid out in slides that have been refined through 6 presentations over 2 years. He is fluent in this language, and the investors are fluent in receiving it. Coffee is served. The mood is the specific warmth of money that has decided it is likely to move. Martin Prue's phone rings. He looks at the screen. Steps into the corridor. Is gone for 4 minutes. He comes back with a face that is the same face but rearranged. "My father," he says. "He's been in surgery." He checks his watch. For over 4 hours. They said it went well. He's in recovery. He looks at the table, at his coffee, at nothing specifically. I didn't know he was here. Calloway says. Martin, I'm. Who performed the surgery? Martin asks. The question is directed at the room. From the doorway, where no one had noticed her arrive. Dr. James Morrow. Claire Morrow is in her white coat. She is standing in the doorway with the particular stillness of someone who has decided exactly what they are going to say and exactly what they are not. She looks at Martin Prue. Your father's surgery was performed by Dr. James Morrow. He has been a cardiac surgeon at Aldrin for 9 years. He is exceptional. Your father is stable and in recovery. You will be able to see him in approximately 20 minutes. Martin exhales. He sits down. Dr. Morrow trained under his father, Claire says. His father built this cardiac program. He developed the surgical protocol that was used in your father's procedure this afternoon. He held the position of chief of cardiac surgery at this institution for 22 years. She pauses. The pause is measured. It is exactly as long as it needs to be and no longer. His father's name is on this wing. The Morrow cardiac wing. She looks at Calloway then. His father has been sitting in the main lobby for the past hour. He was asked to leave the east corridor. The room does not react loudly. It does something quieter and harder to manage. Martin Prue looks at Derek Calloway. He does not say anything for a long time. He is the kind of man who was raised to finish a sentence before he speaks it internally, and the sentence he is constructing is not a fast one. The man in the chair, Martin says finally. In the corridor. The old man with the folder. Yes, Claire says. Martin looks at the table. He looks at the window. He looks at Derek Calloway with an expression that contains several things that are each, separately, significant. I saw that, he says. The meeting ends 7 minutes later. Calloway stands in the corridor outside the conference room as the elevator doors close on Martin Prue and the other 2 investors. He stands there for a moment that is longer than it appears from the outside. Then he takes the elevator to the ground floor. Elias Morrow is in the same chair. The sun through the lobby windows has shifted west. He is on the final page of the paper. Calloway walks to him. He stops 2 feet away. He looks at the folder, the shoes, the glasses on their chain, and he says, Dr. Morrow. He says the title the way a person says a word they have learned incorrectly for a long time and are now attempting to say right, correctly, but without the ease that comes from having always known it. Elias looks up. Mr. Calloway, he says. Calloway sits down in the chair beside him. He does this without deciding to. He sits because standing above this man in this lobby, after this afternoon, has become a position he cannot maintain. He is quiet for a moment. I didn't know who you were, he says. Elias says nothing. I should have. Calloway looks at the folder, the shoes, the hands holding the paper. He looks at the corridor door across the lobby. There are photographs on the wall of that corridor. I have walked past them many times. He stops. Many times. Without stopping. Yes, Elias says. You have. The lobby continues around them. A man returns a visitor badge at the front desk. A nurse crosses with a chart. The hospital's Thursday afternoon moves on without them. I would like to apologize, Calloway says. Elias is quiet for a moment. For which part? He asks. No sharpness in it. The question comes from a genuine place. The honest curiosity of a man who spent decades in medicine and learned that when people apologize they almost never understand the full map of what they are apologizing for. Calloway opens his mouth. Closes it. For asking you to leave, he says. Elias says. He sets the folder down on the seat beside him. He looks at Derek Calloway with the full and level attention of a man who has something to say and has decided to say it precisely. You asked Gerald to remove me in front of 3 men who were evaluating how much money to give this hospital, he says. That is one thing. He pauses. You interrupted Gerald twice when he tried to tell you who I was. You told him to proceed. That is another thing. He pauses again. And when I stood up and walked away, you turned back to your investors and told them that confused individuals get through the side entrances sometimes. You said that. About me. In front of those men. He holds Calloway's gaze. Those are three separate things. They are not the same apology. I'd like you to understand that I know the difference between all three of them. Calloway says nothing. The lobby is quiet. A child crosses with her father toward the elevator bank, running 2 steps and then being caught. You're right, Calloway says. It comes out smaller than he intended. Elias receives this the way he receives most things. Without drama, without satisfaction, without the performance of acceptance that would actually mean less than silence. My son has been in this building for 11 hours today, Elias says. He performed a 4-hour cardiac surgery this morning. He trained for 12 years to do what he does. He trained using protocols that were developed in rooms I built, with colleagues I brought to this institution, inside a program I created when there was no program here. He pauses. He is exceptional at what he does. Not because of what I built. Because of who he decided to become. Those are different things, and I am careful about the difference. He looks at Calloway. I come on Thursdays because I find it useful to be nearby. That is the full reason I was in that corridor today. Calloway nods. I will need a letter, Elias says. A formal letter. Not to me. Calloway looks at him. Gerald Sims tried twice to stop you from making a mistake, Elias says. He was told to proceed both times. He did what he was instructed to do, and that cost him something. He has been in this building for 11 years, which is longer than either of us has been associated with it in our current capacities. He should not leave today carrying what belongs to you. He pauses. He should have the letter by end of shift. Calloway is still. Yes, he says. He will. Elias Morrow stands. He picks up the folder. He straightens his jacket with the same small, careful movement he has made for 50 years. He puts his glasses back on their chain. He looks at Calloway for one more moment, not with contempt, not with warmth, but with the level clarity of a man who has taken the full measure of something and found it neither better nor worse than he expected. Your cardiac department, he says, is excellent. Whatever you conclude about today, that department is excellent. Do not interfere with it. He walks toward the elevator bank. He does not look back. James is out of surgery by the time the elevator opens on the 4th floor. He is in the small lounge at the end of the post-op corridor, still in scrubs, sitting with crackers and the specific post-surgery quiet of a man whose concentration has run at full for 4 hours and is now on nothing. He looks up when his father walks in. I thought you were in the east corridor, he says. I moved, Elias says. James looks at him the way children look at their parents, not by what is visible but by the shape of what is not being said. He has been reading his father this way for 38 years. What happened? Elias sits down across from him. He sets the folder on the seat beside him. The new CEO, he says. He didn't know who I was. He asked me to leave the corridor. James is quiet. Gerald was there. He tried to identify me. He was told twice to proceed. James looks at his hands. The gloves are gone, but the physical memory of 4 hours of precision is still in the fingers. The particular awareness of what those hands were asked to do today and what they did. Prue, he says. How is he? Claire told me. Surgery went well. He'll be mobile in 4 days. His son was on the tour, James says. Martin. He was in the corridor. I know. James looks up. Did he see what happened? Yes. James takes a cracker. He holds it and doesn't eat it. He looks at the window where the city outside has gone the pale, faded orange of a late Thursday afternoon. What did you say to Calloway? He asks. What needed saying? Which was? Elias is quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that isn't deciding anything. The decision was made long before the conversation. That Gerald deserved a written apology by end of shift, he says. That the department is excellent and should not be interfered with. And that there are 3 separate things that require 3 separate accountings, and that I know the difference between all of them. James holds the cracker and looks at his father for a long time. There is between them the particular silence that lives between a man who spent his life building something in a world that did not always want him to build it, and a son who was built inside that something and went further with it than the builder imagined. All the years are in that silence. All the rooms and procedures and mornings and the very specific weight of a father watching a son become the kind of surgeon that changes what is possible for a patient on a table. None of it needs naming. Are you all right? James asks. Elias picks up the folder. I finished the paper, he says. Page 18. The 20-year outcomes are strong. I think we should submit before the end of the month. James looks at him. Something in his expression settles, not into acceptance but into the particular recognizing of his father that he has been doing since childhood, the recognition of a man who closes the door on what was done to him not because it doesn't matter but because the work that waits has always mattered more. Okay, he says. Section 3. The methodology around the exclusion criteria. I think the language could be tighter. I'll look at it tonight. Elias nods. He stands. He straightens the jacket one more time. Tell Claire she was precise when she needed to be, he says. She did well. I'll tell her. Elias picks up the folder. Sunday, he says. Your mother is making jollof. She has been planning it since Tuesday. James almost smiles. She mentioned it on Monday, actually. She lied to me then, Elias says. He walks to the door. At the door he stops, the way he sometimes does, not because he forgot something, but because a thing is better said from a doorway than from a chair. The Morrow cardiac wing, he says, not turning around. 41 rooms. Opened March of 1987. The dedication plaque is in the East Corridor, 12 feet from where he asked me to sit and wait. He pauses. He has walked past it a great many times. He turns then, and looks at James. Make sure the outcomes data holds, he says. Section 3. We will need it to hold. He walks out. Derek Calloway writes the letter to Gerald Sims that evening in his office. He writes 4 drafts. The first 3 are about context, the pace of the tour, the unusual circumstances, the breakdown in the identification process. He reads the 3rd draft and sets it down and sits for a long time at his desk. Then he writes the 4th. It is about Gerald. Only Gerald. What he tried to do, how he tried to do it, and what it says about Gerald Sims that he tried twice and accepted the instruction both times with the professionalism of a man who understands hierarchy and does not confuse it with correctness. He slides it under Gerald's locker at the end of the security shift. He does not discuss the afternoon with anyone. The following Monday, a letter arrives from Martin Prue's office. It confirms the capital pledge in full. It adds one line that was not in the original pledge terms, a request that the restoration of the East Wing corridor, which has been deferred in the capital planning cycle for 2 consecutive years, be prioritized in the next budget review. The letter cites the historical significance of the original surgical wing to the institution. No further explanation is given. None is requested. The restoration goes onto the schedule. Gerald Sims finds the letter in his locker on a Tuesday morning. He reads it twice, standing in the changing room before his shift. He folds it with both hands and puts it in the breast pocket of his uniform, against his chest, and he does not speak about it to anyone. Not that week. But on the Thursday after, when Elias Morrow comes down the East Corridor at his usual time with the folder under his arm and the glasses on their chain, Gerald is at the far end of the hall. He looks up. He nods. The precise nod of a man who received something unexpected and has not put it down. Elias nods back. He sits in the 3rd chair. He opens the folder. He puts the glasses on his nose. Outside the courtyard window, it is mid-spring. Someone has planted something in the corner bed near the stone bench, and it has come up straight and thin and committed. The specific commitment of a new thing growing before it knows whether the season will cooperate. The corridor is quiet. Elias Morrow reads. Calloway's name is still on every piece of institutional correspondence that leaves the administrator's office. The building runs the way it ran before. The surgeries happen on the 4th floor on Thursday mornings and Tuesday afternoons, and sometimes on Saturdays when the cases require it. The east corridor is still slightly off-white, still lit by the same fixtures that have been there since 1987, still holding on its walls the photographs that have always been there. But something is different now. Calloway moves through the east corridor more slowly than he used to. He does not hurry past the photographs. He reads the names in the captions. He looks at the faces. He looks at the plaque, 12 feet from the third chair, and reads the words on it with the specific attention of a man who is reading something for the first time that he should have read long ago. Whether that is enough is not a question this story answers. What this story knows is the distance between a chair and a removal and a lobby and a letter slid under a locker door. What it knows is a man who sat with a folder and polished shoes and waited for a room to catch up to him. What it knows is that the room eventually did, and that it cost the man in the chair nothing, because a man who has built 41 rooms and trained 31 surgeons and written the protocol that kept a stranger's father alive on a Thursday afternoon is not diminished by being asked to stand up. He simply stands. And sits somewhere else, and reads until the floor catches up. If this story reached you today, in whatever corridor you are sitting in, waiting for the institution around you to notice what you carry, subscribe to Noir Resurgence, like this video, and drop one word in the comments that describes Elias. Just one. We read every single one. Stories like his do not end in lobbies. They end in the record. And the record lasts. See you next time.